It's 11:30, the first day of July, 2025, and I really have no idea what the show's going to end up looking like. My name is Phil, and you're listening to The Lit. Yes, one more episode of The Lit coming at you. In fact, this is my 217th episode of The Lit, to be perfectly clear. That's what episode we're at right now, 217. Coolest part about this episode is this could be one of the more fun episodes that I do all year long. Why? Well, granted, doing a show on the road in Pittsburgh was kind of neat. Gave me something to do while I was conducting the business that I had to do in Pittsburgh. But this show is so much different. Well, I don't think I know. I'm going back to the 8 episode marathon story that I told from 2020, rather from 2002 and 2003 of my life experience. I've said it 100 times. At this point, anybody who has listened to this is probably tired of me droning on about it. But those of you who have not, go check those episodes out. But in the process of me telling that story, I knew what my content was going to be for essentially 2 months. So what I needed to do is I needed to work on content that was going to be for another couple weeks. And then that couple weeks turned into a month, which turned into pretty much the entire summer. I was able to write out and script what I wanted to do for the entire summer. And as a direct result, I had notes and everything prepared and ready to go. All I had to do was hit record, with one exception. One date on my recording schedule was empty, and it was because of the way that I arranged my shows. Turns out that this episode, number 217, which, as I said before, I'm recording it now here on July 1st, the very wee hours of July 1st, 11:30 at night. But this episode's not supposed to go out until July 19th. But I've written content and prepared um, pretty much all the things that I need to prepare for to create episodes before this one and after this one, all the way through August 30th, 2025. But this one, well, I just couldn't think of anything to do. So as a direct result, I'm going to do a little bit of anything, a little bit of everything. Just sort of doing what I do best, which is ad lib, freestyle, if you will. I will have to admit that my original concept for a show like this was the just talking episodes. First one I ever did was me just sitting in my office and just talking about stuff that was just floating through my head. But then I started realizing over the years that as I was putting together those just talking episodes, I started finding myself discovering a lot more things to talk about as each episode started going on. And even through the weeks before I was even preparing those shows, that I found myself thinking, I want to talk about that. So I'd write it down so I wouldn't forget about it. And inevitably, the just talking episodes turned out to be me writing down a whole bunch of things that I had seen over a period of time and then just talking about them as I decided to produce just talking about episode. But this is really the spirit of what the just talking episode is supposed to be, where I'm just sort of literally just spewing out things that are coming out of my brain. doing stuff that just pops out of my head. Turns out that the fact that I had no idea what I wanted to do for this episode may have been the perfect way for me to figure out what to do for this episode. And as a result, I think that, well, this could be a fun one. And so, as tradition holds, I'm going to go up and do the fill in the blanks right now. This fill in the blank is going to be, well, it's not quite as, how can I put it? Specific as the other ones. Because it's actually about the show. The fill in the blank is about this show currently. What is the fill in the blank this episode? Well, the blank that needs to get filled in is this show. Whatever content I'm going to come up with in the next, I don't know, few minutes when I ring the bell and do the main event, that's what the blank is. I have no idea what I want to talk about. Absolutely none. Zero. And I wish it would make sense to show you my notebook to actually give you a full picture of the fact that there is literally no notes in front of me. And the stuff that is coming out of my mouth for this episode is literally just going to be stuff that I'm going to just pop out of my head. And I'm going to literally talk to you for, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, just to sort of create the content of this show, which literally has no notes. So, what is the fill in the blank of this episode? Well, it's this episode itself. And now it's time for me to ring the bell and begin the main event. Here it is, the main event of this no notes episode. What am I going to talk to you about? I'm in my little spinny chair right now, looking around, and I found the first subject. Here we go. He's not going to come close to me right now, but I think that in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, I can absolutely say that without any uncertainty that I found a tremendously good friend. Granted, we love Patrick Houston and his wife Yolanda. Those are great people. They are definitely part of a tight circle that I'm creating. But this friend, of all things, is a very unique friend. Why is he a unique friend? Because, well, he's my daughter's cat. Yeah, his name is Phoenix. And quite literally has, over the last year and, well, at this point, year and 11 months, almost 2 years, has slowly become one of my better friends. And it turns out that the reason for this is, of all the cats that we've ever had, and we've had a handful of cats now. I'm thinking about it. Let me see if I can go through the names. There was Unlucky and Sam, who are both black and white cats. Um, there was Vinny. Then there was Isis, Sasha, and Treyu. So that's 6 right there. Then there was uh, the 2 that I can't forget beyond any other. The 2 white cats, Snowflake and her brother, who was a very good friend of mine, The Winter Soldier. Big boy. Good boy, but big boy. He helped me wake the kids up for school. Winter Soldier knew his job. When it was time for me to go and wake the kids up to take them to school, Winter Soldier was told to follow me. He went with me, and he would be there to help me wake up the kids. As soon as I opened the door, he would run in and he would do his thing, wake them up. But now, I'm not talking about the Winter Soldier, who was a great friend. But now we have Phoenix. Of all the cats that I named, the one who is probably the best cat that we've ever had is Mr. Phoenix right now. He is, if I had to put it in perspective, he's the perfect cat. Perfect. He does the Winter Soldier's job and helps me wake the kids up in the morning for school. It's great. He'll come to my room, scratching the door to make sure that I'm awake. He'll make sure that my mother on the Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays where she has to go on to dialysis, he makes sure that she's awake. He's really understanding that it's summertime now and he doesn't have to wake the girls up for school, and he doesn't. He's just crazy like that. He doesn't wake anybody up who's not supposed to be woken up. He understands. It's almost as if he has a watch and a calendar, and he understands what day it is and what time it is. And when he looks at his watch, he sees what time it is, and he just double checks on his calendar to make sure it's a day that somebody has to be woken up, and then he does his job. Incredible. I would certainly say that he probably has one of the most calm demeanors of any of the cats we've ever had. I mean, this guy is really good. He drinks his water, he drinks it well, and I say that because that was the one flaw that the Winter Soldier had. He just played with his water, splashed it all over the place. Phoenix, nope. He drinks every drop of water that you give him, and if his water dish is empty, he'll let you know by moving the water dish around, making a scraping noise on the floor, and you realize, oh, gotta use some more water. He does it perfectly. That's what he does best. He tells you what he needs. He helps you when you need him. And whenever I'm sitting down watching TV, I can rest assured that if he's not with his human, my daughter, his personal human, his first human, I believe that he looks at me as his second human. So if he can't get a hold of her, he'll come and get a hold of me. And he'll sit on my lap and just watch TV with me for hours. He's a very good boy. Trying to see if he wants to be on the show, but he is not milling around right now. I believe he's upstairs with his first human, which is his prerogative. That's what he should be doing. I'm his backup. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. Yes, Phoenix, we are friends. Um, it's a real funny thing that happened because today, again, like I said, it's July 1st. Turns out that here in the city of brotherly love, it turns out that there is the worst kind of strike that the city could possibly have with its workforce. And after watching a video, it turned out to me that this is a very funny strike because there's going to be some serious, awful problems. And I think that the way that it's going to affect me is Not as bad as it's going to affect some people, but it's still pretty awful, and it's kind of hilarious because I may have made mention on this show a time or two about how I felt about the garbage men, the sanitation workers here in Philadelphia. I've had numerous issues with them over several different years where they had taken my garbage cans. They knocked over the phone lines when we had phone lines. And this latest group of things that they've done in the vicinity of my house now, they seem to group up at the Wawa. And I mean, not just a couple trucks, sometimes five, six trucks. And they're right down the road from my house at the Wawa. We're talking maybe a block. 4 to 6 trucks just waiting, getting their food, loading up, and they're right down the street from my house. And this happens a couple times a day. And my favorite time is in the morning when they pull up. They go and they travel to wherever they're traveling to. But the funniest thing is they always seem to go up my street. And a lot of times it's super inconsistent. Sometimes they'll pick up the garbage very late, like very late. Like I've had the trash picked up a couple times around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And what? How does that make such a big deal? I'm retired. I'm off. Doesn't matter. I can get the cans anytime, right? But like I said, they're literally just down the road. So before they take off, they could easily swing up and get my trash and the people that are around my neighbors. They can get all that trash even before they even start the day. They're that close, and that's where they go. So they could just knock us out quick and be done with it. Same thing with the recyclable truck. And yet they wait until the very end. Now, I know what you might think in that. So that may be that they're going to come get it at the end of the day because they got to come back through anyway. But why not just get it first? It's right there. And they don't. But that's okay. They have a pattern that they like to use, and that's the pattern that they do. But it turns out that the day that they decided to strike, July 1st, the day I'm recording, happens to be a crazy scenario because yesterday, June 30th, 2025, was my trash day. That was the day they're supposed to pick up my trash. Now, they didn't strike until July 1st, the next day. Yet and still, they didn't pick up any trash from any of my neighbors or myself. And what makes matters so bad is just like always, they were over there waiting at the Wawa, loading up with food and not doing their job. Why? Well, I mean, they literally were going on strike the next day. The least they could have done, since they were already out, the trucks were there. They could have picked up the garbage in my neighborhood, but no. Why would we do that? That just makes sense. As the kids say, that's too much like right. So why would they do that, right? It just wouldn't make any sense for them to pick up the trash on the day before they strike. Mm-mm, no. And here comes a brilliant technique that was given to us as a plan from the powers that be in order to counter this strike. For those of us who are in Philadelphia, they said they set up 63 different locations 63 locations where they had dumpsters so that you could throw your trash out in one of those locations. Now, the funny part is, if these dumpsters are all over the city and the powers that be asked all the people to only throw their trash out on the day that they were normally supposed to get pickup, but the dumpsters are still there, you really think that people aren't just gonna load up them dumpsters all week long whenever they find trash, just gonna put it in there? I mean, heck, like I said, I drove around because I had to do some things today, and I saw the dumpsters in my neighborhood, and there was two of them for the entire neighborhood. Of course, that's kind of laughable when you think about it, because first of all, our trash day was the 30th, Monday, and here it is Tuesday, July 1st, meaning that they skipped us completely for some ridiculous reason. I have no idea why they didn't just pick up our trash like they were supposed to, but uh, that's really going to help them get more money. But the fascinating part is it is just two large dumpsters, the kind you usually see when people are gutting a house. Now, how does this make sense? It doesn't, because think about it like this. When garbage goes into a garbage truck, it sits in the front for a while, and then they pull those levers on the edges, right? The claw opens up and the garbage goes in, and the garbage truck compacts the garbage, crushes it all in the back. And it can do that for a while. It can hold tons of garbage. But these dumpsters are open air, meaning you just chuck your stuff in the top and it just piles up. So, when you have two dumpsters with open air that aren't compacting, and you have a whole neighborhood that has literally missed its trash day, how long do you think it's going to take to fill up them dumpsters? Answer, like 3 seconds. And what makes it even funnier is today here at July 1st, there was like a crazy thunderstorm, lightning and heavy rain, some wind, but yet the dumpster was full. People were driving in the rain to dump the garbage into the dumpster. Really? Yeah, they were. Which means that now you have a gigantic space with two dumpsters filled with wet garbage. And it's just going to get hotter. And you know they're not coming on the 4th of July. So just imagine the kind of critters that may decide to snack on that stuff. Bon appetit. It's horrible. But it's so true. They're going to just feast on everything in those dumpsters. And they're going to have the best 4th of July they've ever had. It's horrible, but it's so true. Hopefully, by the time that this recording is released, the sanitation workers are not striking anymore, because I already know that a couple days of this is going to be bad. If it had to wait the 3 weeks that it's going to take for this episode to actually air, my goodness. Everybody who would make fun of Philadelphia calling it Philadelphia, they'd be right. Like, we will have literally 12-foot walls of trash everywhere. And the thing that really makes this so unsightly is the fact that the dumpsters are great for you if you have an SUV, a truck, even just a regular car. You could put bags in your car, drive them to the dumpster, and throw them in. What if you don't have a car? Let that sink in. And what if that dumpster is several blocks away and you're going to be dragging heavy trash to the dumpster 4, 5, 6, 8 blocks in July? Does that make any sense? I mean, at the end of the day, it's nice. You're going to get some garbage in there, but there's going to be whole blocks where people aren't going to have any accessibility to those dumpsters because they could be homes where elderly people live. They're not going to drag that trash that far. There'll be people who don't have vehicles. They're not going to drag that stuff that far. And trust me, there are some neighbors who may be nice enough to take the trash for their neighbors, but there's some people who won't. And it's going to just make this pile of garbage just get bigger and bigger and bigger on certain blocks. And that's something that I don't know if they thought about that in their plan. Just what happens to those people who don't have vehicles or older people who can't take the trash down there with no vehicles, even if they have a vehicle, it could just be too heavy for them. It's just not a good situation at all to be in. Wow. And like I said, this episode's coming out 3 weeks from now. I hope that that strike is over and they invest very heavily in Febreze and Glade and Lysol, and maybe we can get the city smelling right again. Hopefully. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Wow. To think that that could be a scenario that really could happen. Mm. It's really bad. While I'm sitting here, let's answer a question or two out of the book because I love to do that. Mm. Here we go. What is your favorite game that begins with the letter N? Favorite game that begins with the letter N. Like I told you, this is totally random here. And I'm answering that question. What is my favorite game that begins with the letter N? N like in Nancy. Hmm. A game begins with N. Hmm. Going through my list of games and favorite game. Hmm. I guess hmm, it's kind of a tie. It's kind of a tie. Whole video game franchises of NBA, 2K, and NHL 9. The NBA, of course, the National Basketball Association. I love that. Since they got rid of NBA Live, I've been really hesitant, but slowly made the switch to the 2K version. After playing so many 2K wrestling games, I figured, let me give the 2K version of the NBA a shot. And early on, I wasn't a fan. I'm going to admit it. I really wasn't a fan early on. But it kind of got to me when I played 24 and then 25 recently. I'm kind of cool with those NBA 2K games now. I'm all right with them. I think they're pretty fun. Of course, as an old school guy, I have to mess around with the franchise mode and like make a team that, for all those people who say LeBron James is the GOAT, I can't allow that to happen. And I put on my team, I go and I load it up with guys like Tim Duncan and Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman for some good defensive presence. And I let Embiid stay on the Sixers. But the most important two players on my entire team, when I could go, originally I was about to take Larry Bird and Dr. J. I thought about putting him on my team, and then uh, Magic Johnson. But I said that was going to be overkill, absolute overkill, because the two centerpieces of my team are so good and so great that I wouldn't need those guys, as awesome as they are, Oscar Robinson and Shaq and uh, Vince Carter, Reggie Miller, one of my favorite players of all time. Why would I need those guys when I go and take Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and put them on my team? So, needless to say, it's sort of your turn, your turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, with the two of the greatest players of all time. So, there ain't nobody beating me with those two guys. It's just not possible. And the other game that begins with an N is NHL Live. Because, truthfully, hockey is my second favorite sport. I just love the idea that somebody got soccer right. I'm saying it. I said it. Somebody got soccer right. You have guys who are allowed to smash into each other and really just knock teeth out and actually get into fights. And the only thing that you get is a 5 minute penalty. The accuracy of taking that tiny, well, it's not totally tiny, but it's small enough puck and putting it into the net, the size of a desk versus that gigantic aircraft bay that they use for soccer net, and still you get the 0-0 tie. How? And I'm saying that as somebody who actually played soccer at one time. Never forget. Oh, hey Phoenix, there you are. I was just talking about you. You have anything to say? No? You're just gonna sit there for a minute? Alright, pal. But like all the stuff that I talk about, I'm real specific when I'm critiquing something. I don't generally critique things that I haven't actually done. Like I said, when I talk about Wawa, when I talk about me working at McDonald's, I've done those things. When I talk about soccer, I've played the game. And because I played the game, I believe that I can give you my opinion of the game. And unfortunately for those who like it, I have a very low opinion of it. I just do. But hockey has most of the elements that soccer has, only it's a smaller, tighter area, and well, it's just a better game. It just is all around. It's just a better game. So the games, my favorite game with letter N is either NBA franchise, 2K, or NHL franchise. Now, those would be my favorite games with the letter N. Let's see. Let's take another question or so. Huh? Maybe we'll get something a little deeper. Let's see. Here's one. What is your opinion of modern medicine? Well, as somebody who has had one, two, three, four surgical procedures that have literally put me back together, and the fact that I know that people have had some of the surgeries that I've had in the past, and the surgery that I had was made very, very simple because modern medicine got better over time. Like my two arthroscopies, when they went in and just cleaned up the cartilage in my knee twice. At one time, they had to cut your whole knee open in order to get in there and do that, giving you months of rehab. Whereas when I did it, I had about a month, 2 weeks where I couldn't walk, and then I was up and about. Second time was even easier than the first, and that was only 2 years apart. My ankle rebuild. I mean, man, people would have been literally crippled 50 years ago if they had that surgery. It'd be done. Whatever they would try wouldn't work. With me, it took me a little time to get the mental right, but once I did, heck, it's been 20 years this year since I had my ankle rebuilt. And hey, I was able to run up and down the stairs when there was an emergency call at the jail because of the way that they did the technique and it worked so well. And that was, I've been out of the game now for 3 years now. And I was running up and down the stairs within the last 5 years when there was a fight on a block because they were able to rebuild it. And the bicep tear, the innovation of using a graft, a cadaver Achilles tendon to weave into my bicep in order to create a structurally sound bicep. I mean, stuff like that. I wouldn't have been able to do it before. I can literally say that I think that it's a great thing. Modern medicine clearly has made my functionality better. Heck, I forgot about it, these shots with a lubricating material in my left knee. The one that I had my two knee surgeries on, I had it 2019. I stopped in a hole at the kid's school, and it was in the middle of me training really hard, but still not quite being overly aggressive with my knees. But when I stepped in that hole, I twisted my knee and I got a little nervous. I'm like, oh man. And I was working as a corrections officer at the time, it was early in my career. And I was really a little nervous about being able to have to go back. I thought maybe I was going to have knee surgery again. But they had, the doctor told me that, well, you might have heard about those shots where they can put this lubricating material in your knee and it will make you better. Yeah, all right, let me try it. It was over a 6 week period of time. I had to take 4 shots. It feels really weird. I'll get into that because later on this year I'm going to talk about pain, but I will say this. Um, that material made such a difference that it wasn't just better than it was um, prior to me beginning to work out. It became almost normal, if it makes any sense, after having almost, at that point in time, well over 20 years after having knee surgery. It kind of felt, for the lack of a better term, actually felt good for the first time in that length of time. And after having those shots, I actually started to do heavier weights with my legs. And up until the time I ended up falling down the stairs at work, I was doing great as far as my leg workouts went. I would do heavy stuff. I mean, I started doing all kinds of stuff. I started squatting again. Yeah, that's something I never thought I'd be able to do. And truthfully, it's because of modern medicine. So there's no doubt about it. I still have aches and pains. Of course, my back off, and my bicep is still working its way through. Every once in a while, I get a little twinge here and there, the other knee and my hip. But if I need to get it fixed, I know that they would be able to fix it. Oh, there's a couple questions here. I think I need to answer both of these. Here we go. We'll start with this one. What is the main thing on your bucket list? I mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. The main thing on my bucket list is a real sad thing, I'll have to say, because if I was more cognizant, I would have actually completed my bucket list and it would have been finished by the year 2019, 2018. In fact, it would have been before that if I was really paying attention. It could have been before that. I could have had my list done by 2015. 2015, I could have completed the bucket list if I was really thinking about it. And that bucket list item is the WWE Big Four. Halfway there, halfway there. I went to SummerSlam 97. I most recently went to WrestleMania 40. And I was really, I guess you could say, taking a break on professional wrestling for several years because of working a later schedule. I really wasn't able to see a lot of the Raws and SmackDowns that were going on. I believe I told Mr. Patrick that I effectively missed the Attitude Era. And I had to go back and check out what was going on. Not the Attitude Era. I saw that. What am I talking about? Stone Cold Steve Austin. I saw the Attitude Era. Undertaker. Um, the Biker Undertaker. I saw all that. But what I missed on the Attitude Era, what I missed was the Ruthless Aggression Era. That's the one I missed. I missed most of Randy Orton getting good. I missed most of John Cena, Edge coming up, Eddie Guerrero as the champion. I missed a lot of that. The Ruthless Aggression Era is the one that I missed primarily because of work. Um, but as a result of me missing on the Ruthless Aggression Era and then the PG era a little bit, I missed out on the fact that the Survivor Series was in Philadelphia, which would have been, I think it was in in the early 2000s, and then the Royal Rumble was in Philadelphia twice. It was in Philadelphia both in oh, notes, of course, I don't have the notes. I know that I believe it was 2015, the first one that Roman Reigns won with The Rock trying to celebrate him. And then, of course, in 2018, and that was my own fault, man. If I had stinking straight, I would have actually, because I had to choose. I went to the Monday Night Raw after the Royal Rumble. How stupid is that? When I could have just gone to the Royal Rumble itself. It would have been the first one that there was a women's Royal Rumble. And I said, and instead, I didn't go to one of the big four tentpole events, which would have helped me complete the bucket list. But now the pricing is sky high. Thank the Lord that I actually saw SummerSlam already and WrestleMania, because those are the 2 night events right now. Eventually, they're going to probably make Survivor Series and Royal Rumble 2 night events, because just think about it. For those of you who are wrestling fans, it just makes sense, because if you watch the Survivor Series, start there. They've been having what is it? The War Games matches. You had a men's and a women's War Games match. You can get more people in the card. You load it up, and you could have the main event for night one and night two of Survivor Series be a men's War Games match and a women's War Games match. And of course, the same thing for the Royal Rumble. There's a men's Royal Rumble and a women's Royal Rumble. Each of those matches take about an hour. So then you just fill in another hour and a half prior to it, and you've got yourself 2.5 hour, 3 hour pay per view, or excuse me, premium live event. But I've been sort of watching on the radar, because those are the two that I need in order to complete the big four. And the fact that I could have had only one, in fact, if I was paying attention, I could have had it. That's it. I could have done it. When I went to go see WrestleMania, that could have been the crown jewel of my big four and bucket list. I would have had it done. But now I need to, as they say, be very crazy, play the lottery and hope to win it, and then hope that they come back in this direction for one of those events, the Royal Rumble or the Survivor Series. The simple fact that the Royal Rumble in 2026 is going to be in Saudi Arabia, I don't know. That makes it super expensive, and I don't know if they're going to ever come down in price. So, as they say, fingers crossed, and we'll see how that goes. Here comes one. Back to the injury stuff again. Do I prefer a natural approach to healing, or do I think modern drugs work best? Well, I think that in order to completely heal from an injury, you need a combination of things, and they need to all work right. I can't say that for certain. If I, like when I destroyed my bicep, I sat there and waited way too long to have the surgery. Clearly, the natural approach to healing wasn't going to work. I needed them to cut me open and fix it. There was no way about it. They had to do it. Now, as far as the drugs are concerned, well, there comes an element because there's a lot of pain involved with surgery. Now, I think that when it comes to the initial pain, you got to do something. You've got to. Like, you absolutely have to. Because if you don't, you're going to lose your mind. That initial pain, you got to do something for it. And afterwards, fortunately for me, like I said, I've had enough of these things to know that, well, I know what my threshold is for the pain after surgery. I know what it is. I know what I can take and I know what I can't take. And after the first one, with my first knee surgery, I discovered real quick that, okay, I, I need a little something now. And they prescribed codeine, Tylenol with codeine. And I took a few of them and it sort of deadened it a little bit. Got to the point where I was like, okay, I can take less and I can take less. And then I took none. The second operation, I was, I don't know, it just seemed like the pain early on was a little more. And I just sort of the codeine didn't help. Got to a point where it just was not effective. And so I just sort of took it just because. But it didn't really do anything. It didn't help for the pain. And now we're talking about I rebuilt on my ankle. With that stuff, I had been prescribed some Oxycontin. And with that, man, that ankle pain was so painful because part of it was I had a bigger cut in my ankle than I had my knees. So, and they had to do a lot more banging and clanging in order to put it back together. But the the person that I try to emulate, which was my Aunt Susan's brother, um, the really the toughest human being I've ever met, ended up having his hips replaced, one week and the other one the next week. All I gotta say is you gotta be a man to do that. So my whole goal was to use as little pain medication as possible because in my mind it's like, man, if he can get his hips redone one after another, this little ankle thing is nothing. And so I kind of went with it like that. And I took all the pain medication that I had, and the doctor asked me if I would want some more, and I told him no, I didn't want any more. And then it got me maybe like a week, and it hit me even harder. So I took half a prescription, and I used that, and then that was it. So I'm definitely going to say that there was a point where I needed it, and now with this most recent one, the bicep tear, I had one oxy after surgery, after the anesthesia and all that stuff. And then I got a prescription for 10 more. I filled the prescription and I kept those 10 and I have them for just in case it got so bad I could break the glass and I could take that stronger pill and I'd be okay. But what I did instead was I took Tylenol PM of all things and I pretty much slept through the pain with the Tylenol PM. When it started getting hefty, after a little while, I just took some more Tylenol PM and I pretty much left that oxy alone. I was prescribed 10 pills. I have 10 pills. Didn't take a single one. But it was nice to know that it was there in case I needed it. So, truthfully, I like the idea of being able to have it as a backup plan. But I think you have to have balance. You can't just go all natural and forget about the modern stuff. You need to have balance between the two. There's certain points where you can not have to use the heavy drugs in order to keep yourself feeling good because sometimes you have to let things heal on their own. And sometimes you need a combination of the two. You let it heal a little bit, you take a little bit of pain medicine to get the edge off of you for a while, and then you allow your body to do what your body is supposed to do. So, do I prefer natural approach of healing to modern drugs? Nah, it's got to be balanced. Um, do I have time for one more? I do. Of course I do. I make up time. And this question just made me laugh when I saw it, and that's why I have to answer this one because it's the truth, and I got a little story about it. Here it is. Have you ever slipped on a banana peel? The answer is yes. Now, there's a story to this. Like, there's always a good story to everything that makes sense. When it comes down to a question like this, you have to have a story. And this one, I've got a great story. Of course, I grew up in that generation who played Mario Kart and threw the banana peels out and spun out cars. I also watched a lot of Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes when they took the banana, they would pull it out, throw away the banana, they take the peel, and they'd throw the peel, and the guy would slip on it and just really just kill himself, just about, right? So, of course, being that guy, oh, how long ago was it? 25 years ish? Sounds about right. 25 years sounds about right. I was walking down the street, and for some reason, I was cognizant of this. I saw a banana peel on the ground, and the MythBusters person in me came to to being, and I just had to know, as Hulk Hogan said in that interview, against when he was getting ready to wrestle the Ultimate Warrior. I've just got to know. I've just got to find out. Well, I just had to know. I just had to find out if there was something to that banana peel. You step on it, you fall horribly bad, uncontrollably. Well, I saw that banana peel there, and it was fresh, relatively fresh. It had maybe a few brown spots on it, but it wasn't all black and greasy like you see them. It was mostly yellow. And I said, I gotta try this. I walked over to it. I put my right toe on it. Of course, I was wearing shoes. And as soon as my foot hit that banana peel, I almost broke my neck. Those things are no joke. It's real. It's serious. If you step on a banana peel, you will go down. There's no way to stop it. It's got to be some natural oils inside the peel, and then a little bit of white that's still left over on the inside from when you pull the banana out. And that stuff is slick like brake fluid. It's just, you're going down. And there's no way to stop it unless you're fortunate enough to be like me and happen to have had a car there that you could post up on. Because if that car wasn't there, and that was just me putting one foot on it, just one. That's all it took. Just there's no way to not fall unless you have something to hold yourself up with. So yeah, banana peels, they're no joke. They're for real. And without a doubt, I slipped on one. But I didn't go all the way down, but I slipped on it because I had to find out if it really did work that way. Whew, it's kind of interesting. Did this whole show, no notes, use a little bit of the magic book. So we're not gonna do that segment because I just answered 3 questions out of the book, maybe 4. Yeah, answered 4. So we're not gonna go into the that segment because we did it in the main event. So I think that this show with no notes, it's all right. I think it was all right. I had a lot of fun, enjoyed drinking my cherry Dr Pepper here while talking about things that just sort of flew through my head. No notes, no plan, but I think that this show came up pretty good. And on that note, I'm gonna ring the bell, and the main event's over. I will say this: I'm not gonna do the magic book segment and answer the question, but that's not gonna stop me from doing the spear of the week. And without a question, like I said, July 1st, 2025, as I'm reporting this, the streets department and sanitation workers in Philadelphia have gone on strike, and they picked a rainy, nasty day to not pick up garbage. And of course, my garbage was supposed to be picked up the day before they went on strike, but they didn't. So it rained and it rained, and all the garbage is now wet and stinking even more because it was super humid. So, sorry, my spear of the week definitely goes to the striking garbage. Sorry. However, now that the spear of the week is over with, to Mr. Patrick Houston in Zenith Transportation, their failure could be your success. You never know. If you can get yourself a few people who want to get their garbage taken, like I said, there's some blocks where the people don't have vehicles. That could be an avenue to make a little money for Zenith Transportation over this strike-ridden time. Never know. But now it is time to start shutting down the show. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the unfinished painting that you see before you. And it's weird because I never show a painting before it's done. But this one is not done. It makes matters worse. It's part of a series of paintings that are not done. And I call this particular series the wrestling series. Now, at first, when I was creating the wrestling series, I was going to make maybe 4, maybe 5 paintings. I saw a couple of moves that I wanted to do that, based on my abstract style, I didn't like the way they looked. I didn't like the way Backbreaker looked. So it's not in the series. And another one that I was looking at that I just didn't like the aesthetics of how the move was portrayed as I was doing it. I was trying Boston Crab, and that didn't work. I didn't like the way that one looked either. However, in my mind, when I was thinking about trying to add another one, I realized something very special. As a wrestling fan, creating a series about wrestling moves, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to expand it beyond 3. Think about it. 1, 2, 3. Ding, ding, ding. Bell rings. Match over. Wrestling series. What you see in front of you is, like I said, It's incomplete. There's still some more work that I got to do. But this one is called Pile Driver. It's number one of three in the wrestling series. And why is Pile Driver number one? Well, all my life as a wrestling fan, I've loved that move. It just seemed to me whenever somebody got hooked up in a regular pile driver, the match was over. Mr. Wonderful, Jerry the King Lawler, they would get you the pile driver, and it was over. Done. Forget it. Other guys like Hitman had a nice pile driver. Ultimate Warrior, Rude, they would give people pile drivers until too many people couldn't do the move right and people started getting hurt. And then it ended up being primarily just the Undertaker's tombstone. That was the only pile driver allowed in WWE for many, many years until they let Kevin Owens, who unfortunately had injured his neck, they let him hit three pile drivers on people. First time in years people were able to get pile driver. But the pile driver is my favorite. And it's the first in the wrestling series. Um, what more is there for me to tell you except for you can check me out on Instagram at Philip Henderson 5102. You see threads of me somewhere. Look for me on TikTok. I'm in there somewhere. Facebook, always. Join us. The Lit Facebook group. Join us. There is always room for one more. Always. Out there on the X, you can find me. And I can tell you right here, right now, this has been a really, really fun show for me to do. I'm super excited about it. And like I said, this is what the general spirit of the Just Talking episodes was supposed to be. But like I said, as I'm driving down the road, I see things, and I'm like, I gotta talk about that. And I have to write the note down because if I don't write the note down, I'm not going to remember it in time for me to write it down. So I kind of had to alter the way that I did Just Talking. But I think I altered it for the better. I think I like the way Just Talking works now. Let me see. This is one that I wanted to do for a while, and I think that I'm going to use it right now because it's really one of my favorite things now that I've really become a bit of an artist. And I would tell this to people. In fact, the one person who definitely deserved to hear this was somebody who was slowing me down horribly in a meeting that I was in. It was just unnecessary. And the artist that I am could literally make this point and literally mean it. Yolanda, eventually, I imagine that this one would certainly be one that you could use too. And I strongly advise it. And I bet you if you do get to use it, Yolanda, you will probably start crying. You'll laugh so hard because this works for us and anybody else who is an artist. When somebody does this, it just takes your time away. This is what you need to say to them. You're wasting my time. I'm an artist. I could literally be watching paint dry. One more time. For Yolanda and all the other artists out there, this one is definitely for you guys. You're wasting my time. I'm an artist. I could literally be watching paint dry. Oh, man. On that note, my name is Phil, and you've just listened to The Lip.